Welcome, weary traveler, to another journey with boring story for sleep. Tonight, we drift back in time to an era when the vast, unpredictable ocean was a highway for dreams and for desperation. Close your eyes, settle in, and allow your imagination to carry you across the centuries to a time when life at sea was an entirely different proposition. We're going to gently explore the year 1600, a time when the world was both smaller and infinitely larger, held within the creaking timbers of wooden ships. Imagine, if you will, that somehow you found yourself transported onto the deck of a sailing vessel in the year 1600, not as a passenger with comforts, but as a part of the crew, ready to embark on a journey that could last months or even years. The sun, perhaps, is just beginning to cast its golden light across the waters, or perhaps the moon is painting silver pathways on the gentle swell. The air itself feels different, laden with the scent of brine, of damp wood, of tar, and other, less definable aromas that speak of human endeavor in close quarters. Your day would begin not with an alarm, but with the subtle shift in the ship's rhythm, or the low murmur of voices as the watch changed. There's no soft mattress to linger on. Your bed, if you were fortunate, might be a hammock slung in a shared space below deck, a canvas cradle offering a modicum of comfort against the ship's constant motion. Or, more likely, it would be a spot on the deck, perhaps tucked near a coil of rope. Using your meager belongings as a pillow, exposed to the elements, the chill of the dawn air might seep into your bones, or the dampness of the night might cling to your clothes. As the ship awakens, so too must you. There's no leisurely breakfast to be had. The daily routine is dictated by the sun, the wind, and the relentless demands of the ship itself. Your first task might be to help with the morning watch, scanning the horizon for other ships, for land, or for any changes in the weather that could spell trouble. The vast expanse of the ocean truly is all around you, stretching to every horizon. The work is constant, physical, and often monotonous. Picture yourself hauling on ropes, each fiber thick and rough against your hands. As sails are adjusted to catch the fickle wind, the canvas, heavy and stiff, billows and snaps with a thunderous report overhead. You'd learn quickly to discern the myriad sounds of the ship, the groan of timbers, slap of waves against the hull, the creak of the rigging, the steady rhythm of the ship's bell marking the hours, each sound a vital part of this floating world. There's no fresh water for a morning wash. Personal hygiene is a concept far removed from the realities of life at sea. A quick rinse with a bucket of seawater might be the extent of your ablutions, leaving your skin feeling sticky and your hair stiff with salt. Cleanliness is a luxury rarely afforded, and the collective aroma of many unwashed bodies in close confines becomes a pervasive, inescapable part of the atmosphere. Mealtimes are equally unadorned. Forget fresh fruits or vegetables. Your diet would primarily consist of hardtack dense, dry biscuit, so tough it could break teeth, often infested with weevils. There would be salted meat or fish, sometimes of questionable age, its preservation a testament to necessity rather than flavor. Water, carefully rationed, would be stored in wooden casks, often acquiring a rather distinct earthy taste over time. Every bite, every sip, is a reminder of your isolation from land and its bounty. Social interaction on board is an intricate dance of necessity and hierarchy. The crew is a diverse mix, drawn from various walks of life, bound together by the shared experience of the voyage. Conversations would be practical, focused on tasks, or perhaps quiet tales spun to pass the long hours of the night watch. There's a camaraderie born of shared hardship, but also the constant awareness of the ship's strict order. Officers bark commands, and every man knows his place, his duty, his role in keeping this fragile wooden world afloat. Sleep, when it comes, is a precious, often interrupted luxury. The ship is never truly still. The constant sway and roll, the creaking and groaning of the hull, the rhythmic rush of water past the sides all become the lullaby of the sea. Even in sleep, your body would remain acutely aware of the ship's motion, an unconscious effort to maintain balance. The air below deck is thick, often smelling of unwashed bodies, stale food, and the faint, ever-present odor of bilge water. Throughout the day, your clothes would become an extension of this environment. Rough, coarse fabrics, stiff with salt and sweat, perhaps patched many times over. There are no spare uniforms, no changes of attire. You wear what you have until it literally falls apart, a second skin that bears the marks of your labor and the sea's relentless embrace. The environment itself is a character in this story. The constant dampness, the biting wind, the sudden squalls that send sheets of rain lashing across the deck. There's nowhere to truly escape the elements. Even below deck, the humidity permeates everything, and the cold can seep into your bones in the long watches of the night. The stars above, however, would be a sight to behold unfiltered by city lights, or dazzling canopy that stretches from horizon to horizon, guiding the ship and humbling the human spirit. And so, the days would blend into weeks, the weeks into months, each one a relentless cycle of duty, endurance, and the unchanging presence of the ocean. You would quickly learn that time at sea in 1600 is not marked by clocks on a wall, but by the sun's arc, the moon's phases, and the ever-present insistent rhythm of the waves. It is a life stripped bare of comforts, demanding in resilience that we, in our modern world, can barely conceive. And as the ship continues its steady, gentle motion, we are ready to explore the next chapter of this journey into the past. Let us turn our gaze from the anonymous sailor to a figure who, by skill, ambition, or sheer force of will, rose to command these fragile wooden worlds. Imagine, if you will, the seasoned eyes of a captain, perhaps someone like Sir Richard Hawkins, a notable English seaman of this very period. His life, a tapestry woven with threads of exploration, conflict, and the constant negotiation with the sea's immense power. Hawkins was born into a family deeply entwined with the maritime world. His father, Sir John Hawkins, a renowned Elizabethan admiral. From a young age, the rhythms of the sea would have been as familiar to him as the beat of his own heart. His education was not in grand halls of learning, but on pitching decks, learning to read the wind, the stars, and the subtle language of the ocean swell. His hands, like those of his crew, would have known the rough texture of rope, the cold weight of brass instruments, and the smooth, worn surface of a ship's wheel. Picture a typical day for Captain Hawkins aboard his ship, say the Dainty, as it cut through the waves on a voyage into the vast unknown. Unlike the common sailor, his quarters, though still modest by land standards, offered a degree of privacy and a few cherished comforts, perhaps a small desk secured against the ship's roll, where he would consult charts, write in his logbook, and compose letters that might not reach their destination for months, if ever. His morning, though free from the demanding physical labor of the crew, would be no less rigorous. He might rise before dawn, drawn by an inner clock attuned to the ship's needs. A hot beverage, perhaps a spiced ale or a weak tea, would be a rare luxury. His gaze, as he stepped onto the quarterdeck, would sweep across the horizon, assessing the weather, the set of the sails, the alertness of the watch. Every detail, no matter how small, held significance for the safety and progress of his vessel. His responsibilities were immense. He was the ultimate authority, the judge, the strategist, the father figure, and often the only true navigator on board. Daily, he would consult with his master, discussing the ship's course, checking calculations against the sun's meridian height or the pole star's position. These were not quick tasks. They involved precise measurements with instruments like the astrolabe or cross-staff, requiring steady hands and an understanding of celestial mechanics. The future of every soul on board rested on the accuracy of these calculations. Decision-making was a constant, heavy burden. Should they press on through a rising gale, or seek the shelter of a distant shore? How should rations be managed as supplies dwindled? How to address dissent among the crew or resolve disputes? Each choice carried the weight of life and death, success or failure. His leadership was not just about giving orders, but about embodying a steady resolve that inspired confidence in his men, even when their circumstances were dire. Evenings would bring a different set of duties. After a simple meal shared perhaps with his officers, he might retreat to his cabin to update his log. This wasn't merely a record of events, but a living document detailing weather patterns, observations of new lands, encounters with other ships, and the daily occurrences that shaped the voyage. The scratch of his quill on parchment, the flickering light of a tallow lamp, casting long shadows that danced with the ship's motion, these were the quiet, reflective moments that punctuated a demanding day. His presence on deck was a constant reassurance. He might walk among the crew, observing their work, offering a quiet word, understanding that their morale was as vital as the wind in the sails. He understood the hardships they faced because he, too, lived in the same confined space, breathed the same briny air, and shared the same uncertain future. The rhythm of his life, though distinct in its responsibilities, was utterly intertwined with the rhythm of the ship and the lives of those under his command. As we gently shift our focus from the lives aboard these vessels, let us consider some of the mysteries and marvels that surrounded them. Imagine again that quiet hum of the ship, the endless expanse of water, and the knowledge that below these waves or within the annals of time lie countless unanswered questions. One of the great mysteries of 17th century seafaring often involves the ships themselves, how they simply vanished without a trace. A vessel laden with cargo and crew set sail from a familiar port, and then nothing. No wreckage, no survivors, just a void in the maritime records. Was it a sudden, violent storm that overwhelmed the vessel, tearing it apart and scattering its timbers across the vast ocean? Was it a rogue wave, a colossal wall of water that simply swallowed the ship whole, leaving no time for a cry for help? Or perhaps the more insidious threat of a slow leak undetected until it was too late, the ship gradually filling with the cold, dark sea, silently slipping beneath the surface. Consider the tales whispered among sailors of ships found adrift, perfectly intact, sails set, but utterly devoid of human life. No signs of struggle, no indication of a swift departure. Only the silent, empty decks, the creaking rigging, and the unsettling sense of a presence that was, and then was gone. These phantom ships, whether real or embellished by legend, speak to the profound sense of vulnerability that permeated every voyage. The ocean, in its vastness, was capable of taking without explanation, leaving only questions in its wake. Navigation in 1600 was a blend of sophisticated astronomy and rudimentary guesswork. Imagine the navigator poring over his charts, which were often incomplete or inaccurate. Based on the observations of previous voyages rather than precise surveys, he relied on the compass, a magnetic needle pointing north, and the celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, and the stars. Their positions in the sky, measured with a cross-staff or astrolabe, allowed him to estimate his latitude. But longitude, the east-west position, remained a frustrating enigma. There was no reliable method to determine longitude at sea. Sailors would often dead reckon, estimating their position based on their last known location, the ship's speed, and the direction it had sailed. This was an art as much as a science, prone to cumulative errors that could lead a ship far off course, turning a planned journey into an accidental discovery or a tragic loss. The feel of the ship through the water, the judgment of the captain regarding the wind's strength, and the very look of the waves, all contributed to this intricate, imprecise calculation. Cultural practices aboard these ships also offered a fascinating glimpse into the human spirit adapting to extreme conditions. Superstitions were rife, a natural response to a world governed by unpredictable forces. Whistling on deck was believed to conjure up a gale. Certain days were deemed unlucky for setting sail. The presence of a woman on board was thought to invite disaster, a belief born more of social custom than actual evidence. These beliefs, though seemingly irrational to us now, provided a psychological anchor, a way to exert some perceived control over an environment that was largely uncontrollable. The rituals of daily life, too, created a sense of order. The changing of the watch, marked by the ship's bell, was a constant, comforting repetition. The sharing of stories, the mending of clothes, the quiet camaraderie in the dim light below deck. These were the threads that wove the fabric of shipboard society. Even the punishments, harsh as they were part of an established code. Designed to maintain discipline in a confined world where order was paramount, the sounds of the ship were a constant companion. The rhythmic splash of the bow cutting through the water, the sighing of the wind through the rigging, the creak of the deck underfoot, and the smells. The pervasive scent of tar, mixed with the salty temps of the ocean, the damp wood, and the unique, enclosed aroma of human habitation. These sensory details painted a vivid, if sometimes challenging, picture of a world both isolating and intensely lived. As the ship continues its steady, gentle motion, carrying us through these whispers of history and mystery, we are now ready to explore the challenges and the eventual conclusion of this journey into the year 1600 at sea. As our journey through the year 1600 at sea gently unfolds, let us now consider the fascinating, often stark, contrasts in daily life aboard these vessels. While the common sailor endured profound hardships, those of higher rank, the officers, and occasionally passengers of means, experienced a different, though still challenging, reality. Imagine, if you will, the subtle lines of demarcation that separated one's existence from another within the confined world of a wooden ship. For the higher-ranking officers, particularly the captain, whose life we touched upon earlier, there were privileges that set them apart. Their living quarters, though certainly not spacious by land standards, offered a crucial element: privacy. A small cabin, perhaps just enough space for a narrow bunk, a modest table, and a locked chest for personal belongings, would be a sanctuary. Here, away from the communal clamor of the lower decks, an officer could find a moment of quiet reflection. The soft glow of a lantern, illuminating a treasured book or a navigational chart, the scent of seasoned wood, perhaps a hint of pipe tobacco, might mingle with the ubiquitous salt air, creating a slightly more refined atmosphere than the crowded spaces of the crew. Their meals, too, would reflect their status. Not lavish by any means, they would certainly be superior to the hardtack and salted meat of the ordinary sailor. Imagine a simple stew, perhaps made with dried vegetables and a piece of preserved meat, served with a measure of wine or ale. These meals might be taken at a small table, often in the company of other officers, allowing for discussions that ranged from ship's business to news from home, providing a sense of intellectual engagement beyond the immediate physical demands of the ship. Their clothing, while still practical for the sea, would be of finer quality, perhaps wool or linen, better able to withstand the elements while retaining a degree of dignity. The ability to possess more than one set of clothes, allowing for a change, even if infrequent, would be a luxury beyond the reach of the ordinary sailor, offering a small but significant comfort against the perpetual dampness and grime. Access to fresh water, though still carefully rationed, would be marginally better, allowing for more frequent, if still rudimentary, attempts at personal cleanliness. A quick shave, a wash of the face with slightly less brackish water, these small acts would contribute to a sense of order and self-respect that was harder to maintain for those in the lower ranks. Then there were the truly rare individuals, the passengers. Imagine a wealthy merchant, perhaps, or a diplomat. Undertaking a long voyage across the oceans, their experience would be the most distinct. They would occupy the best cabins, often located aft, where the ship's motion was less violent. These cabins might even boast a few personal touches brought from home: a comfortable cushion, a writing desk, perhaps even a small curtained window offering a view of the endless sea. Their routines, though still dictated by the ship's schedule, would be far more flexible. While the crew toiled, passengers might spend their days reading, playing cards, or simply observing the vastness of the ocean. Their meals would often include preserved delicacies brought specifically for them. They might even have a personal servant to attend to their needs, bringing a small, almost imperceptible air of domesticity to the harsh environment of the ship. The sounds they heard might be less the creak of rigging and more the quiet rustle of pages, or the gentle murmur of conversation over a game of chess. Yet, even for the highest-ranking officer or the most privileged passenger, the fundamental realities of the sea remained. The ship was still a confined space, vulnerable to the same storms, the same calms, the same unforeseen dangers that threatened every soul on board. Disease, the ever-present shadow, made no distinction between rank or wealth. A fierce gale could tear through the finest cabin as easily as it could drench the hammock of a common sailor. The solitude of the vast ocean, the knowledge of how far they were from any familiar shore, was a shared experience that transcended social standing. The rhythm of their lives, while different in its daily expressions, was still intrinsically linked to the ship's journey. The same sun rose and set for all. The same stars guided their passage. The same waves carried them forward or held them back. The ship, in its essence, was a great equalizer, reminding everyone, regardless of their station, of their collective dependence on its integrity and the whims of the natural world. And so, we bring our gentle journey through the year 1600 at sea to its quiet close. We have drifted through the daily routines of sailors, considered the weighty responsibilities of a captain, and touched upon the mysteries and cultural practices that defined life on these wooden vessels. We have seen a world where resilience was not merely a virtue, but a necessity, where comfort was a rare luxury, and the ocean a powerful, omnipresent force. Imagine now, slowly returning to your own quiet space, to the soft embrace of your bed, to the familiar comforts that surround you. The year 1600 at sea feels very far away indeed. The hardtack and salty air have faded, replaced by the gentle hush of your surroundings. The rough ropes and creaking timbers have softened into the quiet solidity of your home. Let the faint echoes of the sea sounds, the distant creak of a ship, gently recede. Allow the images of that distant time to dissolve, like mist over calm waters. You are safe, you are warm, and you are here, in the gentle present. As you breathe deeply, slowly, feel the last remnants of our historical journey drift away, leaving only a sense of calm and quiet repose. The rhythm of the waves, the sway of the ship, now becomes the gentle, steady rhythm of your own breath, guiding you deeper and deeper into a peaceful, dreamless sleep. Rest now, knowing that the journey is complete and a quiet night awaits you.